Fear is not what we think it is. It's not a monster hiding under the bed or a warning signal from our soul. Fear is a story, one we tell ourselves over and over again until we believe it's true. It's not based on facts. It's based on possibilities, on what ifs. What if I fail? What if they laugh at me? What if I lose everything? What if I'm not good enough? Fear lives in the future. It doesn't come from what is, it comes from what might be. And most of the time, what we fear never even happens. A study from the University of Cincinnati found that 85% of what we worry about never becomes reality. Even in the 15% of cases where the fear came true, most people reported that the outcome was far less devastating than they imagined, and often they grew stronger from it. Think about that. The fear that keeps you stuck, small, and silent, it's wrong 85% of the time. But fear doesn't care about accuracy. It cares about control. Its only job is to keep you still, frozen in place, so it can stay in power. It tells you, stay safe, stay small, stay silent. But really, what it's saying is, don't grow, don't try, don't live. Because growth requires risk. Risk invites change, and change terrifies fear. There's a man I once knew. His name was Michael, a brilliant artist, gifted with a vision and a style that made people stop and stare. He dreamed of having his work displayed in galleries across the country, but every time the opportunity came, he backed away. I'm not ready. What if they reject me? What if I get laughed out of the room? So he painted in secret. Years passed. The dream shrank. One day, I asked him, what happened? He said, I got good at being afraid. His talent didn't die. It was buried under fear. This is how fear works. It doesn't always scream. Sometimes it whispers. Wait a little longer. Get it perfect first. Maybe tomorrow. Fear rarely says no outright. It says not yet. But not yet becomes never if you let it. There's a term psychologists use, cognitive distortion. It means your brain plays tricks on you, amplifying worst-case scenarios, downplaying your strengths, and seeing threats that aren't real. Fear is the master of cognitive distortion. It zooms in on your flaws. It turns a stumble into a catastrophe. It tells you that one no means you'll never hear yes. That one failure means you're finished. It lies constantly. And if you don't confront it, you'll start to confuse fear with truth. But here's the most dangerous part of fear. It's persuasive. It sounds reasonable. It wears the mask of responsibility. Have you ever said something like this? I need to be realistic. I have to think it through more. I just want to be careful. You weren't being careful. You were being controlled. You were choosing fear, dressed up as logic. The mind is brilliant at justifying stagnation. It will build an entire argument why now isn't the time, why you're not ready, why you need to gather more information, when deep down, it's just fear whispering in your ear. Fear doesn't always look like panic. Sometimes it looks like procrastination, like perfectionism, like playing small, like calling it humility when really it's hesitation. If this sounds familiar, you're not alone. Every person who has ever done something bold has had to face it. But the ones who succeed are the ones who recognize fear for what it is, a liar with a loud voice. They don't wait for fear to disappear. They move in spite of it. There's no shame in feeling fear. The shame is in surrendering to it without a fight. You're not weak because you're scared. You're only weak if you let that fear decide the direction of your life. Fear may have walked with you in the past, but it doesn't have to lead you into the future. The first step to killing it forever is to see it clearly, not as protection, but as the prison that it is. When you name your fear, you take away its power. When you face it, you strip it of its authority. When you understand it, you begin to control it, instead of letting it control you. That's where the real battle begins, not in the world around you, but in your mind. Because once you stop believing the lies of fear, you're finally free to rise. Fear grows strongest in the absence of direction. It thrives when your mind is uncertain, your heart is confused, and your goals are blurry. Without purpose, fear has free rein to take over. But when you possess clear, burning purpose, fear loses its grip. People often think courage is the opposite of fear. It's not. Purpose is. Purpose is the fire that makes fear irrelevant. When you know why you're doing something, fear becomes background noise. It may still be there, but it no longer drives the car. There's a story of a mother whose child was trapped inside a burning car. Flames rising, metal melting, bystanders froze in panic, but this mother, she moved. She ran. She pulled the door open and dragged her child out. She didn't pause. She didn't think. She didn't fear. Why? Because her purpose to save her child was more powerful than the fire, than the pain, than the fear. The same principle applies to your life. If you're consumed by fear right now, it's not because you're weak. It's because you've lost connection with your mission. When people ask, how do I become fearless? The real question they should be asking is, what am I willing to fight for? Because purpose sharpens you. It gives you emotional clarity. It silences the noise. And when you're living with clarity, fear is nowhere to hide. Think about the moments in your life when you've been the most decisive, when you didn't hesitate. Chances are those moments were driven by something you believed in, something that mattered more than comfort. That's the formula. You don't need to eliminate fear. You need to outweigh it. People wander through life paralyzed, not because they're lazy, but because they don't know what they want badly enough. When the goal is vague, the risk seems huge. But when the goal is clear, the risk becomes a path worth taking. A man with a powerful why can endure any how. Purpose transforms how you see fear. It doesn't make the fear go away, but it puts it in perspective. Instead of asking, what could go wrong? You begin to ask, what will I miss if I don't try? That single shift in focus changes everything. Fear doesn't vanish when you get stronger. It vanishes when you move. Most people wait for confidence before they act. But confidence is not the starting point. It's the reward. It comes after you act, not before. Waiting to feel brave is like waiting to feel warm before you step into the sun. It doesn't work that way. You have to step out And then the warmth finds you. This is where most dreams die, in the waiting room of fear. People spend their whole lives preparing, thinking, perfecting. But the truth is, you don't need more preparation. You need more courage to act without all the answers. Take small, deliberate steps, even when your hands shake. The power is in movement. Action rewires your brain. It tells your subconscious, I'm not held hostage by fear anymore. The more you move, the smaller the fear becomes. Bold action is a muscle. The more you use it, the more natural it becomes. The first time is terrifying. The 10th time is still uncomfortable. But the 100th time, it's part of who you are. A man named Elias wanted to start a podcast. He had the mic, the software, the ideas, but he didn't launch. For 6 months, fear told him, "You'll sound stupid. No one will listen. You'll embarrass yourself." And he believed it. One night, frustrated with his own hesitation, he hit record and uploaded a raw 5-minute episode. He was shaking the whole time. But when he woke up, a listener had messaged him, "Thank you for saying what I've been too scared to admit." That one message gave him the push to keep going. One episode turned into 20. His fear didn't disappear. He just stopped asking it for permission. Courage isn't loud. It's not the roar of the lion. Often, it's the whisper that says, "Do it anyway." The world doesn't belong to those who wait for permission. It belongs to those who move before they're ready. And here's what you need to know. You don't have to feel brave to be bold. Boldness is a decision, not a mood. It's showing up to the stage with your heart pounding. It's launching the business even when your inner critic is screaming. It's raising your hand, speaking up, stepping forward, even while afraid. Fear loses its voice when you act. Every time you move, it shrinks. And if you keep moving, you starve it. Nothing great is built in safety. Everything worth having requires risk. Not recklessness, intentional, purposeful risk. The fear won't disappear overnight, but it will retreat in the presence of bold action, again and again and again. You weren't born afraid, you learned fear. And anything that's learned can be unlearned. Fear is not just an emotion, it's a mental habit. It's the default setting that plays in the background of your thoughts, like a radio you didn't realize was on. Over time, it becomes so familiar that you don't even question it. You accept it as part of who you are, but it's not who you are. It's who you were taught to be. Your fears were handed to you by parents who were afraid of failure, by teachers who discouraged risk, by friends who warned you not to get your hopes up. You absorbed their anxiety, their limits, their doubts, and somewhere along the way, you started to confuse caution with wisdom and hesitation with safety. Most people live inside a cage built by other people's fears. And the bars of that cage, they're made of beliefs. I'm not good enough. I'm too old. I'll never succeed. I don't have what it takes. Those beliefs are lies repeated so many times that they started to feel like facts. But beliefs can be broken. And the way you break them is by reprogramming the way you think. Every thought you have creates a neural pathway in your brain. The more often you think it, the stronger that path becomes. It's like walking the same trail in a forest. Eventually, it becomes the easiest, most automatic way to travel. That's why fear feels natural. You've walked that trail so many times that it's smooth and well-worn. Your mind knows the route. Assume the worst, shrink back, stay safe. To change your life, you must change the trail. This isn't motivational fluff, it's neuroscience. Studies from Harvard and Stanford have shown that the brain is malleable. You can literally rewire your mind through intentional thought, repetition, and experience. It's called neuroplasticity. You don't fight fear with force. You fight it with new beliefs. I am capable. I can learn. I am resilient. I am not defined by my past. I choose growth over comfort. At first, these thoughts feel fake, like you're lying to yourself. That's normal. You've been telling yourself fear-based stories for years. Of course, the truth will feel unfamiliar. But if you repeat it long enough, your brain starts to believe it. Reprogramming your mindset is not about pretending fear doesn't exist. It's about refusing to give fear the microphone. You become the master of your mind by choosing what voice gets the final say. There's a young woman named Janelle who grew up being told she wasn't smart enough for college. Her high school counselor discouraged her from applying. Her own parents told her to be realistic. She internalized that voice for years. But at 26, something changed. She started reading books that challenged her thinking, listening to speakers who had failed before they succeeded. She wrote new affirmations and repeated them daily, even when she didn't believe them. I am worthy. I am intelligent. I am capable. She applied to college. She got in. 4 years later, she walked across the stage in cap and gown, and she said, "The hardest part wasn't the exams. It was learning how to believe in myself." That's the truth for most people. The battlefield isn't outside, it's in your own head. And if you don't learn to control your thoughts will control you. Reprogramming your mindset is a daily decision. It's catching the voice that says, "You can't," and answering it with, "Watch me." It's waking up and choosing courage, choosing belief, choosing power. It means monitoring what you feed your mind, because fear feeds on negativity, on comparison, on scarcity. But faith grows through truth, through progress, through possibility. You must protect your mental environment like you protect your physical body. You wouldn't drink poison every day and expect to feel strong. So why consume fear-based content, conversations, and thoughts and expect to feel brave? Guard your focus. Train your attention. Speak words that build your strength, not your excuses. The most important voice you'll ever hear is the one inside your own mind. Make sure it's speaking truth. Make sure it's on your side. There's a version of you without the fear, a version that stands tall, speaks boldly, lives freely. That version is real. It's not a fantasy. It's buried under years of mental conditioning, but it's waiting to be activated. And it starts by choosing every single day to believe something new. Fear doesn't just live in your thoughts. It lives in your environment. It feeds off the energy, language, and beliefs of the people around you. If you spend time with people who are always playing it safe, always doubting, always expecting the worst, then fear will seem normal. Their fear becomes your fear. Their hesitation becomes your hesitation. Their low expectations become your ceiling. You may not even realize it's happening. You think you're just staying grounded, but what's actually happening is you're being grounded like a bird locked in a cage. You were born to fly, but your wings are clipped by the company you keep. It starts with small things. You share an idea and they laugh. You talk about taking a risk and they shake their heads. You say, "I want to change," and they say, "Why bother?" You feel that subtle pressure to stay in line, to stay the same. And so you do. Most people never rise because they're surrounded by others who are too afraid to rise themselves. Fear loves company. It gathers in groups. It seeks out the comfort of the crowd. But courage is contagious too. You just have to place yourself where it lives. There's a man named Carter who wanted to leave his job and start a nonprofit. Every time he talked about it, his co-workers rolled their eyes. His family told him it wasn't practical. His friends reminded him of all the people who tried and failed. Then something changed. He joined a group of entrepreneurs online, strangers at first, but they believed in dreaming bigger. They challenged his excuses. They encouraged his plans. When he felt fear, they didn't mock him. They reminded him of his mission. Within a year, he launched the nonprofit. Within 3 years, it was serving hundreds of families. The only thing that changed was his circle. You don't need everyone to believe in you. You just need a few people who do. People who are walking boldly, who think possibility, who breathe fire into your dreams instead of water. Look around at your current circle. Ask yourself, do they make me feel braver or smaller? Do they challenge me to grow or encourage me to shrink? Do they talk about problems or possibility? Your answers matter because your environment is not neutral, it's shaping your future. One study from Harvard followed groups of people over a span of 20 years. It found that an individual's likelihood of success, health, and happiness was directly correlated to the emotional tone of their 5 closest relationships. Not just the people they loved, but the emotional tone. Were they optimistic, purpose-penulant, resilient? If they were, the individual thrived. If they weren't, the individual struggled, even if they were talented. You cannot rise in an environment that resists elevation. You might be thinking, but what if my current circle is all I have? Then start planting seeds. Seek out courageous voices, books, mentors, videos, communities. Let them into your world. Let them raise your standards. Not all friendships are meant to last forever. Some are seasonal. Some are survival-based. They served you once, but if they are rooted in fear, they cannot walk with you into freedom. Love them, respect them, but don't let them determine the size of your life. There's a silent truth many people never say out loud. Sometimes, in order to rise, you have to outgrow people you care about. Not because you're better, but because you're braver. And they're not ready to come with you. That's okay. That's life. Growth is not betrayal. If you're serious about killing fear, start by surrounding yourself with courage. Look for people who aren't afraid to take risks. Speak boldly, bet on themselves. They may be hard to find at first, but once you connect with even one, you'll feel the shift. Their belief in themselves will start to strengthen your own. In every great story of transformation, there is a turning point, a moment when the hero steps away from the familiar and walks into the unknown. But no hero does it completely alone. They find allies. They form tribes. They stand shoulder to shoulder with others who say, "We're afraid too, but we're going anyway." That's what you need. Not a perfect plan, not a guarantee, just people who refuse to let fear decide for them. People who remind you what you're capable of when you forget. You don't rise in isolation. You rise in connection, in community, in the company of the courageous. Surround yourself with that and watch what happens to your fear. Fear is the silent architect of too many unlived lives. It convinces people to stay quiet when they want to speak, to settle when they want to soar, to wait when their heart is screaming to move. But you've seen the truth now. Fear is not a signal to stop. It's a signal that you're on the edge of growth. You've learned its nature, that it thrives in the unknown, exaggerates danger, and paralyzes potential. You've seen how it disappears in the presence of clear purpose, how bold action weakens it, and how your thoughts either feed it or starve it. And you've discovered that your environment can either trap you in fear or free you from it. So here is the truth that remains. You were not made to live small. You were not made to tiptoe through life, avoiding every risk, dimming your light to make others comfortable. You were made to build, to rise, to speak, to lead. And fear has had the microphone long enough. You don't need to wait for confidence. You don't need to feel ready. You don't need approval. What you need is decision. Decide that your life is worth more than your excuses. Decide that fear does not get to decide who you become. Decide that every day forward, you will walk through fear, not around it. Because once you decide, fear loses its power. You will still feel it, but it won't define you. It won't control you, and it won't stop you. There's a version of you that exists on the other side of fear, stronger, bolder, freer. That version is waiting. This is your moment to become that person. This is your moment to kill your fear forever and begin